The boarding tube connected to the Velith ship with a soft hiss that echoed through the silent bridge. Zethus stood with his crew behind him, watching as the airlock opened. 3 humans entered the vessel. The first wore a military uniform with insignia that marked him as a person of high authority. His eyes scanned the bridge with the practiced gaze of someone trained in combat and strategy. The second was a female who carried herself with the confidence of a scientist. She held a small device that seemed to be recording everything around her. The third wore darker clothing and moved with the quiet intensity of a security officer. I am Captain Daniel Wright of the Earth Defense Station Olympus, the first human said in flawless Velith. This is Dr. Lisa Morgan, our specialist in alien languages and cultures. And this is Agent Kevin Torres from the Earth Security Council. Zethus forced himself to maintain composure despite the shock coursing through his system. I am Commander Zethus of the Velith Exploration Fleet, he replied in his native tongue. We came to conduct a routine survey of this system. Wright smiled slightly, and Zethus found the expression unsettling. A routine survey of a system you last visited 500,000 years ago, Wright stated calmly. A system you classified as containing primitive life forms of no significance. Dr. Morgan stepped forward with her recording device still active. We found your probe about 300,000 years ago, she explained in the same perfect Velith. It took us quite some time to decode your language, but we are patient learners. Kaylin could not contain her curiosity despite the tense situation. How did you advance so quickly? She asked with genuine wonder. Evolution does not work this fast. Morgan's expression became more serious. Evolution and necessity both drove our development. She answered thoughtfully. Your probe's technology gave us a starting point, but we had to learn quickly because we were not alone in the universe. Mora stepped forward with concern evident in his posture. You encountered other species? He asked carefully. We did. Torres replied in a voice that carried no emotion. 3 separate species attempted to invade Earth over the last 50,000 years. Each one saw us as primitives ready for conquest. Each one learned that assessment was incorrect. Zethus felt a chill run through his body. What happened to these invading species? He asked quietly. Wright's expression hardened slightly. The first invasion force was destroyed completely. He stated without hesitation. They gave us no choice, and we gave them no mercy. The second invasion force retreated after we disabled their command ships. We let them go, and they spread stories about Earth across their space. The third invasion force surrendered after witnessing what we had become. We allowed them to leave with a warning for others. Torres added his own observation in a cold tone. Each invasion taught us new things about galactic technology. Each attack made us stronger and more capable. We learned from our enemies and improved upon everything they brought. Morgan gestured toward the airlock with a smile that seemed friendly. Commander Zethus, we would like to invite you and your crew to our station, she offered warmly. We have much to show you and much to discuss. Moras moved closer to Zethus and spoke in a low voice. Commander, I advise against this, he warned quietly. We do not know their intentions. Wright apparently heard the comment despite the attempt at privacy. Lieutenant, your ship is currently held in place by gravitational anchors you cannot break, he said matter-of-factly. Your weapon systems have been disabled remotely. Your communications are being blocked. If we intended you harm, you would already know it. We are offering hospitality, not making threats. Zethus understood the situation perfectly. They had no choice but to accept. We will accompany you. He agreed with as much dignity as he could. Maintain. The journey to the human station was brief, but revealing the transport ship that carried them was small but incredibly advanced. The technology integrated seamlessly with what appeared to be organic components. Kaylin could not stop examining everything around her. Your ship appears to blend biological and mechanical systems, she observed with fascination. How did you achieve this? Morgan smiled with obvious pride. We learned that nature often provides better solutions than pure engineering. She explained patiently. Our technology grows as much as it is built. It repairs itself, adapts to new situations, and evolves over time. The station came into view, and Zethus felt his confidence crumble further. It was enormous beyond anything the Velith had ever constructed. The structure seemed to be alive in some way, with sections that moved and adjusted constantly. Lights flowed through it like blood through veins. How many beings live here? Zethus asked with awe he could not hide. This station houses approximately 12 million humans. Wright answered casually. We have 47 stations of this size throughout the solar system, plus hundreds of smaller facilities and settlements. They docked and entered the station through a corridor that seemed to pulse with gentle light. Humans moved through the passages with purpose and confidence. They barely glanced at the alien visitors. As if such things were common, Torres led them to a large window that overlooked Earth. The planet below was breathtaking in its beauty. Green and blue dominated the surface, with white clouds drifting across continents. Cities were visible, but they seemed to enhance the natural landscape rather than scar it. Your world is beautiful, Kalen said softly. We work hard to keep it that way, Morgan replied with clear affection in her voice. Earth is our home, and we protect it fiercely. The rest of our solar system houses our industry and population growth. Earth itself remains as natural as possible. Zethus turned to face Wright directly. Why did you return to this system? Wright asked before Zethus could speak. What was the purpose of your visit? Zethus hesitated, then decided honesty was the only option. We came to check on the primitive species we documented, he admitted quietly. We expected to find either extinction or minimal progress. We wanted to update our records. The three humans exchanged glances. Torres spoke first with barely contained frustration. You classified us as insignificant and forgot about us for 500,000 years, he stated flatly. Then you returned expecting us to still be primitive. You never considered that we might become something more. Wright raised his hand to calm Torres. The commander is not responsible for decisions made by ancestors who died thousands of centuries ago, he said reasonably. He came here following standard procedures. He could not have known what he would find. Morgan stepped closer to Zethus with understanding in her eyes. We do not blame you for the past, Commander, she said gently, but we need you to understand the present. Humanity has changed in ways that will surprise many species. We need to show you everything so you can report accurately to your people. Zethus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Whatever he reported back to the Velith High Command would determine how his people viewed humanity. Show me, he said simply. Show me what you have become. Wright nodded with satisfaction. Tomorrow we will give you a complete tour, he promised. You will see our accomplishments and understand our capabilities. You will learn why the galaxy has reason to fear what Earth has become. Those last words hung in the air like a threat and a promise. Combined Zizis wondered what tomorrow would reveal. He suspected it would change everything the Velith thought they knew about the universe. Commander Zethus stood before the viewing window of his science vessel and watched the small blue planet grow larger in the distance. 500,000 years had passed since the Velith had last visited this world. Back then, the planet housed primitive creatures who barely knew how to use stone tools. The ancient records showed beings covered in fur who lived in caves and hunted with sharpened rocks. They were classified as harmless and unlikely to ever reach the star. Zethus remembered reading those old reports. During his training, the images showed creatures who could not even create fire. Consistently, their brains were small and their societies were simple. The Velith had left a monitoring probe in the system and moved on to study more promising species now. 500,000 years later, the routine check was finally scheduled. Dr. Kalen approached from the research station on the lower deck. She carried a data pad showing the original classification reports. "Commander, I have reviewed all the historical data from our previous visit," she said with confidence in her voice. "The species we documented should either be extinct or barely advanced beyond their original state." Zethus nodded slowly while his eyes remained fixed on the approaching planet. "Most primitive species either destroy themselves or remain stagnant for millions of years," he replied in a measured tone. "There is no reason to expect anything different here." Lieutenant Moras entered the bridge with his military bearing evident in every step as the security officer. He always prepared for the unexpected. "Commander, we are approaching the outer system boundary," Moras announced clearly. "Shall I begin the standard scanning procedures?" "Proceed," Zethus commanded with a wave of his hand. The ship's advanced sensors began their work, probing the solar system for any signs of development. What came back made no sense at all. "Commander," the sensor operator called out with alarm in his voice, "I am detecting massive artificial structures in orbit around the third planet." Zethus turned sharply from the window. "That cannot be correct," he said firmly. "Run a full diagnostic on the sensor array." The Vonti operator's hands moved quickly across the controls. His face grew more confused with each passing moment. "All systems are functioning perfectly, Commander," he reported with uncertainty. "The readings are accurate." Kalen rushed to her own console and brought up the sensor data. Her expression changed from confidence to shock in seconds. "Commander, there are structures around not just the third planet," she said with disbelief coloring every word. "There are orbital facilities around the fourth planet, the planet's 2 moons, and the third planet's single moon as well." "That is impossible," Zethus stated flatly. "The primitive species we documented could not possibly have achieved this level of advancement." Moras stepped forward with concern evident on his features. "Commander, I recommend we activate our cloaking systems," he suggested in a low voice. "If there is an unknown species in this system, we should observe before making contact." Zethus agreed immediately. The Valith had not survived millions of years by being careless. "Engage the cloak," he ordered. "Take us in slowly and scan for any signs of the species we originally documented." The ship shimmered and vanished from normal sensor detection. They moved deeper into the solar system with caution, guiding every decision as they approached the inner planets. More impossible readings appeared. "Commander, the energy signatures match Valith technology patterns," the sensor operator reported with confusion, "but they are more advanced than our current systems." Kalen studied her screens with growing concern. "This makes no sense at all," she muttered while reviewing the data. "How could a primitive species acquire Valith technology, let alone improve upon it? Perhaps another species discovered our probe and colonized this system," Mora suggested logically. "It would explain the advanced technology," but Zethus felt doubt. Gnawing at his thoughts, something about this situation felt wrong in ways he could not explain. "Take us closer to the third planet," he commanded. "I want to see what has become of this world." As they approached, the true scale of what they faced became clear. Enormous stations orbited the planet in perfect geometric patterns. Each one was large enough to house millions of beings. Ships moved between the stations and the planet's surface in an organized flow that spoke of a highly advanced civilization. The planet itself looked different from the records where once there were vast wildernesses. Now, there were cities that seemed to blend with the natural landscape rather than dominate it. "Scan the surface," Zethus ordered quietly. Look for any signs of the original species. Kaelin worked in silence for several minutes. When she looked up, her face had gone pale. "Commander, I am detecting billions of life signs on the planet's surface," she reported. With a trembling voice, the genetic markers matched the primitive species we documented 500,000 years ago. The bridge fell silent. Every member of the crew understood what this meant. The harmless primitives they had classified as insignificant had somehow achieved all of this. How is this possible? Zethus asked the empty air. No species advances this quickly. "Commander, we have a problem," Mora said suddenly with tension in his voice. "A significant problem." "What is it?" Zethus demanded. "We are being scanned," Moras replied while checking his security console. "Multiple targeting systems have locked onto our position." "But we are cloaked," Kaelin protested. "They should not be able to detect us." "They have detected us anyway," Moras stated grimly. "And they are not attempting to communicate." Zethus felt fear rising in his chest for the first time in decades. "Tactical options?" he asked quickly. "None," Moras reported flatly. "Whatever is targeting us has technology superior to our own. If they wanted us destroyed, we would already be debris." Suddenly, the ship's systems flickered and died. Emergency lights activated throughout the bridge. "What happened?" Zethus called out. The sensor operator worked frantically at his station. "Unknown gravitational forces have locked onto our ship," he reported. With panic creeping into his voice, "We cannot move. Our engines are not responding." The main viewing screen activated on its own. A being appeared on the screen. Zethus felt his heart skip several beats. The being looked similar to the primitive creatures from the ancient records, but this one wore a uniform that spoke of military authority and technological sophistication. When the being spoke, the words came in perfect Valith language. "Unidentified vessel. You have entered Earth's solar system without authorization." The being said calmly, "You will power down all remaining systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with immediate defensive action." Zethus could only stare at the screen in shock. The primitive species they had dismissed had not only survived, they had become something. The Valith had never anticipated something that could detect their best cloaking technology, something that could speak their language, something that could hold their ship immobile with casual ease. Dr. Kaelin whispered what they were all thinking. What have they become? The morning came quickly aboard the human station. Zethus had spent the night in quarters that were more comfortable than his own ship. The room adjusted its temperature and lighting automatically to match Valith preferences. He wondered how the humans had known exactly what his species needed. Wright arrived precisely when he said he would. With him came Morgan and Taurus, along with a small transport vessel. "We have planned a comprehensive tour," Wright announced with professional courtesy. "You will see Earth, Mars, and some of our outer system facilities. Your crew members are receiving similar tours with other guides." The transport departed from the station smoothly. Zethus watched through the viewing ports as they descended toward Earth. The planet looked even more beautiful from this perspective. "We will begin on the surface," Morgan explained while checking her datapad. "We want you to understand how we live before you see our military and industrial capabilities." They landed near a city that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. Buildings rose from the ground like trees. Gardens covered every surface. Rivers flowed through the streets in carefully maintained channels. Humans walked alongside what appeared to be genetically modified plants that moved to provide shade. "This is impressive," Kaelin admitted while studying everything with her scientific eye. "Your integration of nature and technology is far beyond anything the Valith have achieved." Morgan smiled with obvious pleasure at the compliment. "We learned that working with nature is easier than working against it," She said warmly, "Earth taught us patience and respect for natural systems." They walked through the city and Zethus noticed something unusual. The population seemed relaxed and content. There were no signs of distress and conflict that plagued most. "Developing species, where are your factories?" Morris asked while scanning the area. "Where do you produce your technology and goods?" Torres pointed upward toward the sky. "We moved all heavy industry off Earth about 200,000 years ago." He explained clearly, "Mars and the outer system handle manufacturing and resource extraction. Earth is our home, our garden, and our heart. We protect it from the damage that rapid development causes." They returned to the transport and lifted. Away from Earth, the next destination was Mars as they approached the red planet. Zethus felt his understanding of human capability shift again. Mars was green vast. Oceans covered much of the surface, clouds drifted through an atmosphere that sensors confirmed was breathable. "You terraformed an entire planet," Kalen whispered with shock coloring every word. "The Veilith required 10,000 years to terraform our first colony world. How long did this take you?" Wright answered with pride evident in his voice. 800 years from start to finish." He stated simply, "We learned from your probe's data and improved upon the Veilith methods." They landed on Mars near a massive industrial complex. Factories stretched to the horizon. Ships were being constructed in enormous yards that defied beliefs. Some of the vessels were larger than Veilith capital ships. Morris studied the military vessels with growing concern. "Those are warships," he observed carefully. "You have built an impressive fleet." Wright nodded without any attempt to hide the truth. "We have," he confirmed calmly. "After 3 invasion attempts, we learned that peace requires strength. Species that would conquer the boss. Weak will respect the strong." Torres led them to an observation deck overlooking the construction yards. "Humanity did not seek conflict," he explained in a measured tone. "We were happy to develop our system in isolation. But other species found us and saw only primitives ready for enslavement. They attacked without warning or mercy. We defended ourselves and we won," Kalen asked. The question that haunted her thoughts: "What happened to the species that attacked you?" She inquired softly. Wright's expression became serious and distant. "The first species that invaded us came from a world 30 light years away." He began slowly. "They sent a fleet of conquest ships expecting easy victory. We destroyed every single vessel. Then we sent probes to their home world to understand why they attacked. We learned they were a dying civilization desperate for new resources. We chose not to retaliate further." Morgan continued the story with sadness in her voice. "The second invasion came from a species that viewed other beings as property," she said quietly. "They had enslaved dozens of other species across multiple systems. When they attacked Earth, we disabled their command ships and let the survivors retreat. We hoped they would spread the message that Earth was not prey." Torres finished the account with cold precision. "The third invasion was the most dangerous," he stated flatly. "A highly advanced species with technology superior to ours at the time. They came expecting to add Earth to their empire. The war lasted for 3 years and cost us millions of lives. But we adapted faster than they anticipated. We learned from every battle and every captured ship. When we finally cornered their fleet, they surrendered. We could have destroyed them, but we chose mercy. We let them return home with a message for the galaxy." Zethus felt compelled to ask the obvious question. "What message?" He inquired carefully. Wright turned to face him directly. "That humanity protects its own." He answered simply, "That we will defend ourselves with whatever force is necessary, but that we do not seek conquest or revenge. We only want to be left in peace." The tour continued to the outer system. They visited the construction facilities around Jupiter, where truly massive projects were underway. Stations the size of small moons orbited the gas giant. Energy Collectors harvested power from the planet's magnetic field. What are you building here? Kalen asked while observing the scale of the operation. Generation ships. Morgan replied with a distant look in her eyes. We are preparing for the day when humanity spreads beyond this solar system. When that day comes, we want to be ready. Their final stop was Luna, Earth's moon. The archives were housed deep beneath the lunar surface. They walked through halls filled with the history of human development. Morgan led them to a special chamber. Inside a protective case sat the Valith probe from 500,000 years ago. This device changed everything for us, Morgan said softly while gazing at the ancient technology. It showed us we were not alone. It gave us a starting point for understanding the galaxy. It taught us that we needed to become more than we were. Kalen approached the case and studied the primitive probe with new understanding. You preserved it, she observed with surprise. You could have dismantled it for study, but you kept it intact. Morgan nodded with a gentle smile. It is a reminder of where we came from, she explained warmly, of how far we have traveled, and of how much further we still have to go. Wright checked his timepiece and gestured toward the exit. We have one more thing to show you before you return to your ship, he announced formally. They were led to a conference room with windows overlooking Earth's. Several other humans waited there. One of them stepped forward. I am Ambassador Helen Carter. She introduced herself with diplomatic grace. I handle Earth's relations with galactic powers. Zethus felt confusion rising within him, but humanity has no formal contact with the galaxy. He protested. Carter's smile suggested she knew something he did not. Commander, we need to have an honest conversation, she said seriously, about what humanity knows, about what the galaxy thinks it knows, and about why your arrival here terrifies so many species. Zethus realized that everything he had seen so far was just the beginning. The real revelations were about to begin. Ambassador Carter gestured for everyone to take seats around the large conference table. Through the windows behind her, Earth rotated slowly in the darkness of space. Zethus sat with Kalen and Morris beside him. Wright, Morgan, and Torres took positions across from them. Another human joined the group, an older man with gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. This is Dr. Peter Sullivan. Carter introduced him professionally. He specializes in the history of human contact with alien species. He has studied every encounter we have had over the past 100,000 years. Sullivan activated a display screen that showed a star map. Dozens of systems were marked in various colors. Commander Zethus, what do you know about the Galactic Council? Carter asked directly. Zethus felt surprise at the question. The Council consists of 47 advanced species, he answered carefully. They maintain peace and facilitate trade across multiple sectors of space. The Valith are founding members. Carter nodded slowly. We know, she stated simply. We have known about the Council for approximately 100,000 years. The revelation struck Zethus like a physical blow. That is impossible, he protested. The Council would have detected your communications and made contact. Sullivan smiled slightly and touched controls on his datapad. The star map zoomed in to show Earth's region of space. Humanity has been listening to galactic communications for a very long time, he explained patiently. We decoded Council standard language about 70,000 years ago. We have monitored every public transmission, every trade negotiation, and every diplomatic exchange. The Council has never known we were listening. Morris leaned forward with concern etched on his features. You have been spying on the entire galactic community? He asked with disbelief. We prefer to call it cautious observation, Torza replied coolly. After 3 unprovoked invasions, we learned to be very careful about revealing ourselves. Morgan added context with her scientific perspective. We needed to understand galactic society before joining it, she said reasonably. We needed to know if the invasions were isolated incidents or common practice. What we learned made us choose isolation over contact. Kaylin could not contain her curiosity. What did you learn? She asked urgently. Sullivan changed the display to show incident reports. We learned that primitive species are frequently targeted for conquest or exploitation. He stated factually. We learned that the strong prey upon the weak. We learned that being underestimated is sometimes the best defense. Carter stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. We also learned something that changed our entire approach. She said while gazing at her home world. We learned that ships avoid Earth's sector of space. Trade routes curve around our system. Military patrols give us a wide berth. The galaxy is afraid of us. Zethus felt his confusion deepen. Why would the galaxy fear humanity? He demanded. The Council does not even know you exist as an advanced species. Wright responded with grim certainty. They know. He contradicted firmly. They might not acknowledge it officially, but they know. Sullivan brought up another display showing ship tracking data. Watch this. He instructed. The screen showed hundreds of vessels traveling through space, each one that approached Earth's region altered course to avoid the system. We have tracked every ship that has come near our space for the last 50,000 years. Sullivan explained. Not one has entered the inner system. Not one has sent scanning probes. They all change direction and move away. Torres activated another screen showing translated communications. We intercept their transmissions. He revealed. Ship. Captains warn each other about this region. They call Earth the Forbidden World. They speak of the species that destroyed 3 invasion fleets. They tell stories about humans that grow with each retelling. Kaylin reads some of the transmissions. With growing horror, these reports claim humanity hunts other species for sport. She said with shock that you torture prisoners and harvest them for biological research. That your ships can appear from nowhere and vanish instantly. None of this is true. Morgan shook her head sadly. Most of it is not true. She corrected gently, but some elements have basis in fact. We did study captured invaders to understand their biology. We did develop cloaking technology that made our ships difficult to detect. We did destroy the first invasion fleet completely. Fear and rumor transformed facts into legends. Carter returned to her seat and folded her hands on the table. The galaxy has created a mythology about humanity. She explained calmly. We are simultaneously the victims who defeated their oppressors and the monsters who show no mercy. The truth is somewhere in between, but perception has become reality. Zethus struggled to process this information. If the galaxy fears you, why have you remained hidden? He asked with genuine confusion. Why not reveal yourselves and correct the false stories? Wright answered with strategic reasoning. Because fear keeps us safe, he stated bluntly. Species that fear us do not attack. U.S. ships that avoid our space do not threaten our colonies. Being the unknown danger is more effective than being the known neighbor. Sullivan added historical perspective. We studied the fate of other species that revealed themselves to the Council. He noted seriously, some were welcomed and prospered. Others were exploited for their resources or knowledge. Still others were absorbed into larger empires and lost their independence. We chose to wait and watch until we were strong enough to negotiate from a position of absolute strength. Morris asked the question that had been building in his mind. Are you strong enough now? He inquired carefully. The humans exchanged meaningful glances. We believe so. Carter replied with measured confidence. But we are not ready to reveal ourselves fully. Not yet. Torres brought up images of human ships and weapons. We have technology equal to or superior to most Council species. He reported matter-of-factly. We have the industrial capacity to defend our interests. We have the will to use force if necessary. But we prefer peace when possible. Wright stood and walked to where Zethus sat, Commander. We are not warmongers, he said earnestly. We are survivors who learned hard lessons. We protect ourselves fiercely, but we do not seek conquest. Morgan activated one final display. It showed records of human activities across multiple systems. While the galaxy fears us, we have been helping them, she revealed with quiet pride. We have secretly aided 12 different species facing extinction. We have provided advanced medical technology to 3 worlds suffering plagues. We have shared agricultural techniques that saved billions from starvation. We have done this anonymously, asking nothing in return. Kalen studied the records with amazement. You saved all these species and never told anyone? She asked with wonder. Carter nodded with a sad smile. We help when we can, she confirmed softly, but we do not seek recognition or gratitude. We do what we believe is right, and we move on. Zethus felt his entire worldview shifting. Humanity was not the simple primitive species he expected to find. They were not the monsters the galaxy feared. They were something far more complex. They were protectors who could be destroyers. They were peacekeepers who possessed terrible weapons. They were saviors who remained anonymous. What do you want from the galaxy? Zethus finally asked, what is humanity's ultimate goal? Carter looked at each human in the room before answering. We want to be left alone to grow and develop in peace. She said simply, we want to help species that need assistance. We want to defend ourselves against those who would harm us. And we want the day to come when we can join the galactic community as equals, not as subordinates or conquerors, but as partners. Sullivan added one final thought. The question, Commander, is what you will tell your superiors, he said meaningfully. How you classify us will determine how the Violith approach humanity, and that classification will affect everything that follows. Zethus understood the weight of responsibility he carried. His report would change history. Zethus stood alone in his quarters aboard the Violith ship. Humans had released their hold on the vessel and returned his crew safely. Now he faced the task of reporting everything to the Violith High Command. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared. The transmission. Kalen entered without knocking, which told him how troubled she was. Commander, I have written my scientific assessment, she said quietly. I do not know how to classify humanity. Every category we use seems inadequate. Morris followed close behind her. My security report is equally problematic, he admitted with frustration. I must rate humanity's threat level. But what number captures what we witnessed? They have superior technology, but show restraint. They possess devastating weapons, but prefer diplomacy. They inspire fear across the galaxy, yet help species in need. Zethus gestured for them both to sit. I'm struggling with the same questions, he confessed honestly. The classification we assign will determine how the Violith respond. If we call them dangerous, we risk creating the very conflict they wish to avoid. If we call them harmless, we deceive our own people about a significant power. Kalen pulled up the original classification from 500,000 years ago. She read it aloud with bitter irony in her voice. Primitive species. Non-threatening, unlikely to achieve technological advancement. Minimal cognitive capacity. No strategic significance. We could not have been more wrong. The communications console activated suddenly. The face of Admiral Vorthan, Supreme Commander of the Violith Fleet, appeared on the screen. His expression showed the stern authority of someone accustomed to immediate obedience. Commander Zethus, your preliminary report has caused significant concern among the High Command. Vorthan stated without preamble. You claim a primitive species has achieved technology superior to our own. You claim they speak our language perfectly. You claim they have been monitoring the entire Galactic Council without detection. These claims seem impossible. Zethus straightened his posture and met the Admiral's gaze directly. Admiral, I am transmitting full sensor data, visual records, and detailed analysis, he replied formally. Everything I reported is verified and documented. Humanity is not what we believed them to be. The Admiral reviewed the incoming data in silence. His expression shifted from skepticism to shock to something approaching fear. This cannot be accurate, he protested weakly. No species advances this rapidly. Moros stepped into view of the communication screen. Admiral, with respect, the data is completely accurate, he confirmed. I personally verified every measurement and recording. Humanity has achieved in 500,000 years what most species require millions of years to accomplish. The Admiral's face showed the strain of processing this information. What is your recommended classification? He demanded before Zethus could answer. The screen flickered. Captain Wright's face appeared alongside the Admiral's image. Forgive the intrusion, Admiral Vorthan, Wright said calmly in perfect Valith. But I thought this conversation should include human perspective. The Admiral stared at Wright with undisguised alarm. How did you access this secure channel? He asked with a mixture of anger and fear. Your encryption is quite good, Wright replied with a slight smile, but not good enough to stop us from listening when we choose to. Do not be alarmed. We have no hostile intentions. We simply believe open communication is preferable to secret classifications. Dr. Morgan appeared beside Wright on the screen. Admiral, we understand the Valith must classify humanity in their records, she said diplomatically. We accept that you must make decisions based on your perception of us. But we wanted to offer our own perspective before you decide. The Admiral seemed to regain some composure. Very well, he agreed. Cautiously, explain yourselves. Ambassador Carter joined the conversation from another location. Humanity does not seek conflict with the Valith or any other species, she stated. Clearly, we have defended ourselves when attacked, but we do not initiate aggression. We have developed advanced technology through necessity and effort. We have learned from every species we encountered, including yours. Agent Torres appeared on screen as well. We also want the Valith to understand something important, he added. Seriously, we have the capability to defend ourselves against any force, but we prefer cooperation to confrontation. How you classify us will influence how we interact with the Valith in the future. Sullivan brought up data showing humanity's secret aid to other species. While you debate whether we are dangerous, consider what we have done with our power, he suggested meaningfully. We have saved species from extinction. We have cured plagues and prevented famines. We have done this without seeking recognition or reward. Does this sound like a dangerous species or a responsible one? The Admiral studied the information with visible conflict on his features. You possess the power to dominate, he observed carefully. Yet you claim to seek only peace. History shows that powerful species eventually use their strength to expand and conquer. Wright's expression became serious and intense. Admiral, humanity learned a terrible lesson from our own history, he explained with gravity in his voice. Before we reached space, we spent thousands of years fighting among ourselves. Wars between our own nations cost billions of lives. We nearly destroyed our entire civilization multiple times. We learned that power without wisdom leads only to suffering. We learned that strength must be tempered by compassion. We learned these lessons in blood and fire. Morgan continued the explanation with sadness in her eyes. When other species invaded us, we remembered our own violent past, she said softly. We could have become conquerors ourselves. We had the anger and the capability, but we chose a different path. We chose to be better than our enemies. We chose to be better than our own ancestors. Carter addressed Zethus directly. Commander, you asked what humanity wants from the galaxy. She reminded him gently. We want the chance to prove we can be powerful without being destructive. We want to show that strength and kindness can coexist. We want to help build a better galaxy. But we will defend ourselves without hesitation if threatened. The Admiral looked at Zethus with questioning eyes. "Commander, you have spent time with these humans," he said seriously. "You have seen their capabilities and heard their words. What is your assessment?" Zethus took a deep breath before responding. "Admiral, I believe humanity is the most dangerous species we have ever encountered," he stated firmly. The humans on the screen showed surprise at his words, but Zethus continued without hesitation. "They are dangerous not because they seek conflict, but because they are unpredictable," he explained carefully. "They possess the power to destroy, but choose to protect. They have been watching us for thousands of years, yet remained hidden. They can be merciful or merciless depending on circumstances. They adapt faster than any species on record. They learn from their enemies and improve upon everything they encounter. They are dangerous because no one truly knows what they will do next," Kaylin added her scientific perspective. "But they are also the most fascinating species I have ever studied," she said with wonder. "They evolved under harsh conditions that forced them to develop resilience. They created a society that values both individual freedom and collective responsibility. They integrated technology with nature in ways we never imagined. They deserve respect, not just fear." Morash provided the military viewpoint. "From a security standpoint, they are formidable," he admitted candidly. "But they have shown discipline and restraint. They could have destroyed our ship, but chose to communicate instead. They could have hidden their capabilities, but chose to reveal them. This suggests honor and confidence." The Admiral remained silent for several long moments. Finally, he made his decision. "The Valith will classify humanity as an advanced species with strategic significance," he declared formally. "We will recommend caution but not hostility in future interactions. We will propose to the Galactic Council that humanity be offered observer status. This will allow them to participate in galactic affairs without full membership obligations." Carter smiled with satisfaction. "That is acceptable as a starting point," she agreed diplomatically. "Humanity is ready to begin conversations with the Council, but we will proceed slowly and carefully." Wright had one final message. "Admiral, Commander, we want to offer the Valith a gift," he announced. Morgan held up a data storage device. "This contains medical research that can treat 3 diseases currently affecting Valith populations," she explained. "We ask nothing in return. Consider it a gesture of goodwill between our species." The Admiral seemed genuinely moved by the offer. "On behalf of the Valith people, I accept with gratitude," he said with sincerity. "Perhaps humanity will prove to be the ally the galaxy needs." The transmission ended, leaving Zethus and his crew alone with their thoughts. Kaylin spoke first. "They terrify me," she admitted quietly, "but they also give me hope." Morris nodded in agreement. "The galaxy will never be the same," he observed. "Humanity has awakened, and no one knows what that truly means." Zethus looked out at Earth floating in the darkness of space, the small blue planet that had birthed a species so complex and powerful. "We came here to study primitives," he said softly. "Instead, we met the future, a future that frightens many but might save us all." The Valith ship turned away from Earth and began its journey home behind them. Humanity continued its patient watch over the galaxy.